This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi. Sefer Daniel, Perek Ches, Pasuk Tesvav. So Daniel saw the vision of the ram, and then he saw the vision of the he-goat, and how the he-goat came along and destroyed the ram. And Daniel is lacking understanding of what this is all about. So in Perek Ches, Pasuk Tesvav, Vayhi b'roisi ani Daniel asechazai. When I, Daniel, saw the vision, va'avak shavina, and I was searching for understanding, v'hine oimed lenegdi kamare gaver, and behold, there stood opposite me like the appearance of a man. Now, who is this gaver? We will learn this Gaver is
the Malach.
The Malach, which Malach? Gavriel. Gavriel. Gavriel is the intended angel that we're talking about. Now we're going to be dealing with two Malachim. We explained that the greatest of all the Malachim is Michael. Michael, and then after Michael is Gavriel. Now Daniel is not going to be Zoicher to see Michael, he's only going to be Zoicher to see Gavriel. Michael will tell Gavriel, Michael gives orders to Gavriel to explain to Daniel the vision. Va'eshma, okay, and I heard Koil Adam, the voice of a man, Bein Ulai, that was standing in the river Ulai. Now the voice of the man that he heard is going to be the voice of the Malach Michael. And he hears the voice of Michael, Vayikra, and he calls out, Vayoymar, and he says, Gavriel! Right? Michael and Gavriel, they're buddies, they're pals. Michael is greater than Gavriel, so Michael says to Gavriel, Havein haleh Samara. Explain to this Yenim, explain to this guy, the Mara, lehalaz, to the guy over there, to in other words to Daniel. Explain to him. He doesn't chap, you explain it to him. You know, it's like somebody, the Rabbi gives a shiur, and one of the Talmidim doesn't understand. So the Rabbi tells the guy next to him, the guy who chaps, you explain it to him. I just say, you know. Okay. Vayavai etzel amdi, and he came to where I was standing. Uvevayai, and when he approached, nevati, I was startled. I shuddered. Va'epla aponai, I fell on my face. Vayomer elai, and he said to me, Havein ben Adam, listen up, understand, ben Adam. Now this is a very interesting expression, ben Adam. Which Navi is referred to as ben Adam? Yechezkel. Right? Yechezkel Hanavi is called Ben Adam, which is the highest title. The greatest title you could give someone is Adam. Right?
One second. By the way, if anybody wants this thing, there's about 5 or 6 of them there on the bookshelves with the needles.
Okay. And I believe this is the only other occasion in Tanakh that anybody else is called Ben Adam. So usually it goes to Yechezkel. But one time Daniel gets a Ben Adam also. Havein Ben Adam, ki la'eis kates hechazayin. The vision is referring to the time of the end.
Think further down.
Li'eis kates hechazayin.
How could Daniel tell that the angel was Gavriel? How could he tell him?
How did he know?
Yeah, how did he know? How did he tell?
See, he had a sticker. He had a sticker. It said, "Hello, my name is Gavriel."
He had a sign on his chest. How could he tell?
Maybe Nevi'im knew. Maybe Nevi'im knew. I don't know how he knew. Again, he's writing this Ruach HaKodesh, so perhaps through the divine spirit he is privy to that information. Otherwise, we don't have any other identifying marks. How he would know that it's Gavriel. Vayavai.
You heard Michael, your customer is Gavriel.
Oh, that's true.
You only got 2? You got 5 or 6.
Michael says to Gavriel, you know, explain it to him. Okay.
Boy, he doesn't count.
I don't need.
Now, Rabbi Sai.
I know what I said.
Rabbi Sai. First it's told to Daniel that the time of the end is referred to as an ace kates. An ace kates. Pasuk Yirches, uvedabro imi, when he spoke to me, nirdamti al panai. I nirdamti. Nirdamti means I
Scared. Right?
I was scared. I fell asleep. Nirdam, right? I fell asleep al panai arza, to the ground. We know that except for Moshe Rabbeinu, all the Nevi'im received their prophecy in a sleeping state. Right? That's why a lot of people are makbid to go to sleep during Shiurim. They think they're going to get Nevuah. But that's
why the night show went to sleep.
That's right. So he says, Nerdamti al panai arza, I fell asleep on my face to the ground. Vayigabi, the Malach touched me. Vayamideni alamdi, and he stood me up in my place. Thank you. Vayomer, and he said, Hineni moediach, I would like to let you know, Eis asher yeh ba'achros hazam, what will be at the end of all this anger. Ki lemoyed kates. Ches yutes. Ki lemoyed kates. The end will be at a set time.
It was one more.
Yes, that's what I was just saying.
Rabbi say.
We were quiet.
So the Malach is saying that the kates will come lemoyed. The Malbim points out that 2 psukim earlier it says the kates will be le'es kates. Now it says lemoyed kates. What's the difference between ace and moyed? Ace means like this. Ace means a natural sequence of events. In other words, the Bias HaMashiach has been already programmed into a natural sequence of events that after a certain natural process it will come as part of a sequential order. However, someone could come in and interfere with nature. Someone could stop it. In other words, just because there's a natural process, maybe God will intervene and make that natural process not occur. So moyed implies it's a superimposed time that doesn't matter what, it's coming. Yeah, so the Mam's saying a little bit, slightly a different nuance, that it's both part of the natural order of creation. In other words, it's programmed into the sequence of history, but it's also superimposed. Right, that's true. Even if in terms of it coming at a specific time, that specific time is both part of the natural order of the history, the unfolding of events, and it's superimposed at that time. That's the difference between pasuk Yud Zayin and pasuk Yotes. Yud Zayin is le'es kates, pasuk Yotes is lemoyed kates.
What happened in Shrine? It was a natural slavery period, and then they had a more intensified period.
Yeah. Says the pasuk Chaf, Ha'ayel asher ro'isa, the ram that you saw, Bal HaKronayim, that had the horns, Malchei Madai Uparas, were the kings of Madai and Paras. First Madai for a year, and then Paras. V'hatzafir hasair. V'hatzafir hasair. The male goat, Melech Yavan, was the king of Yavan.
Yavan is Greece?
Greece. The Greek king. The kingdom of Greece. V'hakeren agdoila, and the big horn, Asher Bein Einav, that was between his eyes, Hu HaMelech HaRishon. That was the first king of Greece. Now it doesn't mean the first king, it means the first kingdom. Who is that referring to? Who is the first kingdom of, who began the first kingdom of Greece? Alexander. He killed Daryavesh, who was the son of Esther, and Rashi points out as is reported in the Sefer Yosifon. V'hanishbares, and that which you saw, that the horn was broken, the horn broke. Vata'amoidna arba tachtan, 4 horns rose up in its place. Arba malchios, 4 kingdoms. Alexander Mokdon's dominion was broken up into 4 kingdoms. Arba malchios migoya amayno will arise from that nation. V'loy b'koichai, but they will not have the koyach that Alexander had. They will be weaker than him. Uve'achares malchusam, and at the end of their kingdom.
Maybe veloy bekoicha means not with his consent, not with his koyach. They will be rebellers. They will
No, he died and they took over after.
They will take over without his koyach, without his orders.
They didn't rebel against him.
It'll be a revolution.
I mean, they won't be right.
It won't be with his.
The Malbim says, like you, that it won't be his children or his yarshim that are coming from Mikaichai, but rather they are just people who took over on their own.
An entity, a separate.
They were his generals.
Yeah, but they did not inherit the Melucha.
No, they just took it.
Now Rashi learns simply, V'loi b'kaichai, they will not be as strong as him. And after their malchus, kehasem hapoishim, when the sinners will have ended. What does that mean? Rashi says, when the time comes that the Rishei Yisrael will end in the times of the Bayesheni. What does that mean? Yamoid Melech, a king will arise, as panim, brazen-faced, umevin chidais, who understands riddles.
Why is the end of Beis Sheni kahasem hapoishim?
Now what does this mean? Kahasem hapoishim. Simply, it means like this. Rashi says, kahasem hapoishim, kishiagiu zman, when the time comes, sheyitamu rishei Yisrael, when the Jewish wicked end, shebebayesheni, in the times of the Bayesheni. Why is it called kahasem hapoishim? Why are they referred to as kahasem hapoishim? In Sudas Dav it says, when the time arrives to destroy the Parsha Yisrael. In other words, it doesn't mean when they stop sinning. It means when the time comes to destroy them. Right? We know in the end of the Bayesheni that really we would have liked to preserve the Beis HaMikdash, but it was so intertwined with the Tzedokim, right? Where the Gemara says in Masechta Gittin, it was actually good for us that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed along with all the heretical groups, the Tzedokim and the Baitusim. Right? It's like if you have a snake coiled around a jar of honey, you break the whole thing, you break everything. You don't try to save the honey, because it ain't going to happen. If the snake is there, you just smash everything. So, who is this bold-faced king? Rashi says Titus Harasha. The Titus. What does it mean? Umevin chidais, will understand riddles. So the Malbim says an unbelievable pshat. The Malbim says this refers to the continuity of Titus and Vespasian, which ultimately formed into the church, and they will be Maven Chidais. They will be able to answer all the difficulties that the Tanakh presents to them, all the questions and riddles that their religion is faced with. They are Maven Chidais. They have ways to dray out of it. V'atzam koichai. Now this is the pshat of the Rashi and the Malbim. Others learn that this refers to the end of the Greek Empire. It refers to Antiochus, who was toward the end of the second Beis HaMikdash. He was the king who was an Azpanim. Who learns this way? The Ibn Ezra says Melech Azpanim. Who haya Antiochus? Who was Antiochus' general? Gallianos. Okay? And I believe Reb Sadia Gaon says this refers to the Yishmaelim, the Arabs.
Depends who is your oppressor. That's how you basically...
The Arabs or the Muslims?
The Muslims.
Same crowd.
Yeah, same chavra.
Same chevra? No. Same chazarai.
Rabbi say.
It wasn't the Indonesian.
V'atzam koichai, v'loi b'koichai. V'atzam koichai. Not with power, Rashi says. V'loi b'gvura. Kiyem b'chalak lakais, k'mosh mefurish b'sefer Sefer. They will rule, v'atzam koichai, their power will be strong, but v'loi b'koichai. But not with brute force, with their smooth talk, with their persuasion. V'niflois, yashchis, and with wondrous ways they will destroy. Behitzliach, they will be successful. V'asa, they will accomplish. Behishchis atzumim, they will destroy many nations and powerful nations.
Are these the Crusades?
V'am kedoshim, and they will destroy Klal Yisrael. They will destroy the holy people.
Are these the Crusades?
Church.
Well, not yet.
Be the church.
Unfortunately, it's carrying on to today's time.
V'al sichloi, and because they are successful. V'hitzliach, and because they have success. These are different words. Rashi says, because they are wise and successful in wherever they turn. Mirma b'yadai,
He has falseness in his hand.
through the trickery in their hand. In other words, v'al sichloi, through their intellect, v'hitzliach mirma b'yadai, their deceit will be successful through them.
They were struck because Jews were weak.
Because the Jews sinned.
Sin.
Yeah?
Sin.
Sin? Alright, sin.
V'al
They
sichloi,
would be strong, they wouldn't be sin.
yeah, v'al sichloi, v'hitzliach mirma b'yadai, through their intellect, they will be successful in their deceit. Uvilvava yagdil, they will consider themselves great in their heart. Uveshalva, and through their tranquility, yashchas rabim, or the way Rashi learns, uveshalva yashchas rabim, with people who they were at peace with, they will destroy many nations. In other words, even nations that they're not at war with, they may have good relations and peaceful relations with other nations, and then suddenly they'll destroy them.
Like Russia, like Germany did. Blitzkrieg.
V'alsar sarim yamoid, and on against the prince of princes they will stand up. Who's the prince of princes? God Himself.
It's like a cape to Camp David.
Uvi efes yad yishaver. But uvi efes yad, without any force they will be broken. This is a nevuah of the downfall of Titus, because ultimately Titus had his downfall. What happened to him? He came off the ship, and a gnat went up his nose into his brain and began eating away at whatever brain matter he had less, and then that ultimately led to his downfall. So that's the prediction of Efes Yad Yishaver. In other words, nobody's going to attack Titus. Nobody's going to fight against him. He will have his downfall through nothing, through a little gnat, through a little flea.
Wow.
Now, if you read Roman history, they write about how when Titus was a young man, he was a very arrogant, aggravated, irritated person. Everything got on his nerves. And toward the end of his life, he became very introverted and quiet. And he didn't pay attention to, no kidding, because when you have a bird pecking in your brain, it's very hard to pay attention to anything else. I remember Victor Miller used to explain, no kidding, he became introverted at the end of his life. He had this flea in his brain eating up his brain matter.
How old did he live for?
I don't know.
That's why the Spartans sent to Titus, because he was such an actor.
He was
He
what?
couldn't. The father
And no
couldn't
mercy.
do it, so he sent Titus.
Okay.
Exodus David says the same thing exactly, word by word.
Yeah, okay. Umare ho'erav ha'boiker asher ne'emar, and the vision that Daniel had, that after evening and morning, 2,300, remember in the beginning? Ad erev boiker alpayim u'shlosh mea is v'nitzdak kodesh, that's in Perek Ches Pasuk Yadalid.
Which was wrong.
No, it didn't happen yet. The vision of evening and morning that was said, emesu, it is true. V'yata ba'yu sisoim ha'chazayin, seal up the vision. In other words, Chazal tell us there are only two people who knew when Mashiach was coming. Daniel and Yaakov. V'yata sisoim ha'chazayin, but close it up. In other words, don't tell anybody about it. Ki liyamim rabim. It will not be for a long time.
Weasley you didn't.
It will not be for a long time. Va'ani Daniel nihiyesi v'nechalesi yamim. And I, Daniel, nihiyesi. I was broken. I was broken. Either Rashi says because of the impending punishment. I was really broken because of the prediction of impending punishment. Or others learn he was broken because he couldn't figure out the meaning of the vision. V'nechalesi, I was sick, yamim, for days. But va'akom, I got up. Ve'eses melechas hamelech, I did the work of the king. Because again, Daniel was appointed over the avodah of King Belshazzar, who he had already been working for his father Nebuchadnezzar, like we learned in the beginning of the Sefer, and he had to go back to his job. Va'ashtoimim al hamara, I was bewildered over the vision, ve'ein mevin, without any understanding. Now others learn that what does it mean, va'asas malachas hamelach? What does it mean, I did the work of the king? He did the work of the Rebbeinu Shalom, the Melech Malchei HaMelachim. Okay, so this is the conclusion of Perek Ches. Perek Tes. Bishnas achas Dayavesh ben Achashverosh mizera Madai. In year 1 of Darius, son of Achashverosh, from the seed of Madai. Now this is important to know. This ain't Achashverosh of the Purim story. Achashverosh of the Purim story was Achashverosh mizera Paras. This is Achashverosh mizera Madai. Achashverosh of Paras had a son named Daryavesh, who eventually gave the order to build the second temple. This is not that Daryavesh. This is Daryavesh, the son of the first Achashverosh. Now they may have been related. Some say that Achashverosh of Paras was the son of Daryavesh of Madai. But in any event, we're now dealing with Daryavesh of Madai, the son of Achashverosh. Rashi points out, Loi zehu Achashverosh yimei Haman, ki hu melech Paras haya, v'zeh Daryavesh hamadai, asher humlach al malchus kazdim. This Daryavesh was the king of Bavel after Belshazzar died. We learned above, after the handwriting was on the wall and Belshazzar was killed, so Daryavesh took over, the Daryavesh from Madai took over the Malchus.
What is Madai? What country?
Media.
Midian.
No, not Midian.
No.
Madai.
Where is it?
Today?
Yes.
Near Paras, near Persia.
Near what?
Near Persia.
Near Persia.
I don't know if it's a separate empire today. I haven't visited that part of the world, so I can't pinpoint exactly where it is.
And it's in, would you know?
Maybe then I would know. But
I'm telling you, it's Iraq.
Weasley, you went to Alaska, you didn't go to Media?
okay, so Bishnas achas l'mochai, in year 1 of his kingdom. Ani Daniel, I Daniel, binoisi basfarim. I contemplated the books or the calculations. I contemplated the books. Mispar Hashanim, the number of years. Asher Haya Dvar Hashem El Yirmiyahu Hanavi, that God had spoken to the prophet Jeremiah. Lamalois Lecharvas Yushalayim Shivim Shana. God told Yirmiyahu he will fill up the ruins of Jerusalem after 70 years. Now, what happened was there are a number of nevuahs. One nevuah was that Hashem Lamalois Lebavel Shivim Shana, that Bavel will last for 70 years. The problem was that's up. It was up. Nebuchadnezzar's gone. Belshazzar's gone. And Daniel's looking around, and there was and we're still around. We're still in Bavel. God didn't remember us. Now, there was another nevuah. Malois lecharvos Yushalayim shivim shana. God is going to restore the ruins of Jerusalem after 70 years. So Daniel figured these two 70-year periods coincide. They're the same 70 years. In other words, as soon as Bavel has their downfall, so now our 70 years from Jerusalem is up. Now, the miscalculation of Daniel was that how do you calculate lecharvos Yerushalayim? Is it from when Nebuchadnezzar first came in and began to subjugate Yerushalayim? Or was it when he exiled Yehoiachin? Or was it when he exiled Yehoiachim? Was it Yehoiakim or Yehoiachin? Ultimately, The 70 years were from the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash, which was 18 years after Nebuchadnezzar first came into Yerushalayim.
Who was first, Tzidkiyahu or Yochai?
First Tzidkiyahu, I believe.
If he was the one who was taken captive and was blinded.
Yeah, but and after him was Yehoiakim and Yehoiachin. Now, let's see what Rashi says over here. Binoisi basfarim. So I want to mention that in Masechta Megillah on Daf Yud Beis, the Gemara is medayik from the words Ani Daniel, but Binoisi basfarim, that the fact that Daniel says he contemplated the Sfarim, that implies he made a mistake. Otherwise, what does he have to contemplate? If it's black and white, if it's obvious, so why does he have to contemplate it? So the Gemara says in Masechta Bavel, Amar Rava in Masechta Megillah Daf Yud Beis, Amar Rava Af Daniel Ta b'Hai Cheshbana. Daniel also made a mistake. T'chsiv b'shnas achas l'malkoi Ani Daniel b'noisi b'sfarim mi dekamar b'noisi miklal deta. Says the Gemara, Mikamakam kashu krayada. We have a stiram sukim. Ksiv melois lebaba. It says 70 years for Baba. Ksiv lecharvas Yerushalayim. Amarava lefkida ba'alma. After 70 years, God will remember us. But the Beis HaMikdash was still not built until 70 years from the destruction of the temple. Let's see Rashi over here. Mispar Hashanim Hayisi Mechashev Cheshbain Hashanim Shayisi Savar. Daniel said, I used to think on that which Yirmiyahu prophesied, Kilafiv Malais Babal Ayin Shana Efgoid Eschem, Dimisi, I thought, Shabkida Hazois. What does God mean that after 70 years he would visit us? I thought that this visitation, he binyan habayis, was the building of the temple. V'shivim Shana Kalim Bishnas Achas Dayavish Hamadai. The 70 years were up. In the first year of Daryavish the Madai, Misha Pashta Malchus Bavel Yad al Yisrael. In other words, if we were going to calculate 70 years from the time that Bavel began to reign over Klal Yisrael, it would end in the first year of the reign of Daryavish Hamadai. Al Yisrael Shekavash Nebuchadnezzar Yehoiakim Liyoslai Eved. The first year that Nebuchadnezzar ruled over Jerusalem and stretched out to Jerusalem, he conquered Yehoiakim, and Yehoiakim became his Eved. That was the second year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign. The Amar Mar Shana Rishana Kavash Ninmei Shana Shnia Allah v'Kavash Yehoiakim Say the Chashoiv Meyoysa Shana v'Yad Kan v'Tim Tzayim. V'Yaf the Mishnah Seder Olam Nimtza HaCheshbain Hazeh v'Shaninu Sham v'Shnas Mois Belshatza Harei Shivim Shana Miyayim Shamalach Nebuchadnezzar Shivim Chasar Achas Miyayim Shekavash Yehoiakim. V'Oid Shana Achas Bavel Amar Daryavish v'Shlima. So in other words, Daniel sees that it's been 69 years since Daryavish was conquered, and now, 69 years since Yehoiakim was conquered, and now 1 year of the reign of Daryavish. So Daniel says, I'll look around. We're still in exile. God did not remember us. When I see that the Gula has not hastened to come, I thought about this. V'nasati lev, and I contemplated the Sfiras HaCheshbon, to try to count the calculation. V'yadati shel hayli limnos lefi kibush Yehoiakim, and I know that I shouldn't be counting when Yehoiakim was conquered, ela lamalois charvas Yerushalayim, but rather from the time Jerusalem was destroyed, kishiyimalu shivim shana legalas Tzidkiyahu, when the 70 years were up from the exile of Tzidkiyahu, shabai charva Yerushalayim.
That's what it was.
V'oid yesh shmoina asar, and there are another 18 years. Lavai shahagalas hazois ha'isa b'yud cheshana l'kibush Yehoiakim k'mashinim seder olam galu b'zayin galu b'ches galu b'yud ches galu b'yud tes v'persha chazal themselves Megillah galu galas Yechanya b'shiva l'kibush Yehoiakim shu shmoina l'Nebuchadnezzar galu b'shniya b'shmoina esrei l'kibush Yehoiakim shi teisha esrei l'Nebuchadnezzar.
According to this, he lived a long time.
He lived 140 years.
So 1 second. So what I said was not correct. First, Yehoiakim was exiled in the second year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign. Nebuchadnezzar, in his first reign, he conquered Nineveh. In his second reign, he took Yehoiakim and he exiled him. 7 years later, he exiled Yehoiachin.
70 years.
7 years later.
7.
11 years after that, he exiled Tzidkiyahu.
How many years did he reign?
So he was supposed to start counting from the time that Tzidkiyahu was taken.
He's supposed to start counting from the time Tzidkiyahu was taken. Instead, when did he start counting?
He started from Yehoiakim. He was counting 7 years less than he was. 7 years less than he was supposed to.
Exile Yehoiachin was 7 years after the conquest.
Snoring.
Rabbi, so we find that 3 people made calculations. We find that Belshazzar made a calculation. Now Belshazzar calculated from when? From Nebuchadnezzar's reign. From Bavel. Achashverosh calculated from Galus Yechanya. What was Daniel's mistake? Daniel also made that mistake. He also calculated from Galus Yechanya. But really, what should have they been calculated from? From the times of Tzidkiyahu. From the times of Tzidkiyahu. Now,
Where do you go to find a Seder Olam Rabbi?
it's a medrash. You go to the library.
How long did he live?
Yeah, Seder Olam Rabbah. Chafetz Chaim.
This whole Rashi is quoting that's the one he's quoting.
Yeah.
Vision of Seder Olam.
It's a brisa. Yeah.
The Gemara brings down in Megillah that Chasoch was Daniel.
Yes.
So he lived a long time. He had Rabbi Hashem.
He lived over 100 years.
No, more.
140.
At least more than that.
And those days, the lifespans were 50 years, 60 years tops.
So he lived much longer than that. Because you went through.
Because of the sequence.
According to the way Daniel brings down the whole story.
Okay. So the Gemara says what Daniel was afraid of was he saw that it was 70 years upward from Bavel, and yet the Jews were not redeemed. So he figured we must have done some kind of Avera to postpone or cancel God's promise to redeem us. So in this case, Daniel offers a tefillah to Yibban Shalom to help him understand and comprehend what the future has in store for Klal Yisrael. After all, he sees that the nevuah were not coming true. He sees the nevuahs were not coming to fruition.
Is he allowed to do that? You're not allowed.
He could
He's davening. He's davening.
He could answer tefillah.
He's being mispalel for Hashem to enlighten him, to help him understand what the meaning of the nevuah.
I thought you're not allowed to
He's not.
Why the Holocaust?
Question.
He's not asking why. He's davening to Hashem to help Hashem. Hashem gave him a nevuah. Hashem told Yirmiyahu a nevuah at the end of 70 years, so the Jewish people will be redeemed. And now it's not happening. It's not coming true.
Why did he do?
He's not reprimanding Hashem, he's just keeping tefillah.
Not a question of
Va'etnu es panai el Hashem Elokim. I placed my face. So it means he faced the right direction. He's in Bavel, so he's facing south, west.
Well, Ibn Ezra says southeast. I would say southwest, unless somehow
Face towards
curls around.
Yerushalayim.
It's further west than Jerusalem.
No, the Ibn Ezra says southwest.
What does Ibn Ezra say?
Southwest.
Really?
Ma'arav Estremis. Va'etnu es panai el Hashem Elokim. I placed my face to God. Levakesh tefillah, to ask for tefillah. In other words, Daniel is saying, I didn't just set my face to daven, I set my face to ask to daven. What is this reminiscent of? Hashem sefasai tiftach ufi yagati lasecha. before you daven, you need to ask Hashem to help you daven. So I asked Hashem, levakesh tefillah, v'sachanunim, in supplication, b'tzoim, with fasting, v'sak, in sackcloth, v'efer, in ashes. V'espalel al Hashem Elokai. I prayed to Hashem, my God, v'esvada, and I confessed. V'oimran, I said, Ana Adoi Shem, please, O God, Hakel, Hagadol, V'hanoira, the God, the great, and the awesome. Which word is absent? Gibar. We find also, Yirmiyahu said, Hakel, Hagibar V'hanoira. He didn't say, Yirmiyahu said, Hakel, Hagadol, Hagibar, but he didn't say Noira. So Chazal say, Moshe Rabbeinu said, Hakel, Hagadol, Hagibar V'hanoira. But Daniel could not say Gibar, because he said that the Goyim are surrounding us to destroy us. Aye Gvurosecha, where is your might? Yirmiyahu Hanavi saw the destruction of the first temple. He said, Aye Norosecha, where is your dread? Until the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah came along, and they said, how is it shayach for one nation to live among 70 wolves? And they restored it to Hakel, Hagadol, Hagibar, the Hanoira, and hence they are called Anshe Knesset Hagdolah. The reason they're called Anshe Knesset Hagdolah is because they restored the Gibar and the Hanoira to the Tefillah of Moshe Rabbeinu. So here, this is where we find Daniel took out the word Gibar. Shomer Abris V'Chesed. You're the one who preserves your covenant and your kindness. La'ayavav, to those who love you. U'l'shomer mitzvaysav, and to those who keep your mitzvahs. In other words, Daniel is saying, God, you gave us a promise. You gave us a prophecy. You have to keep it. But we see that it's not being kept because chatanu. We sinned unintentionally. V'avinu, we sinned intentionally. V'hershanu umaradnu. We were wicked rebelliously. V'sar mi mitzvaysacha. We turned away from your mitzvahs. U'mishpatecha. And from your logical dictates. V'lo shamanu al avodecha hanaviyim. We did not listen to your servants, the prophets. Asher dibru b'shmech b'shimcha. They spoke in your name. El malachenu, to our kings. Sarenu, our princes. V'avoseinu, and our fathers. V'yal kolam ha'aretz, and to everybody. L'cha adoi shem hatzdaka. To you, God, is righteousness. In other words, all of the punishment that you mete out to us, you're correct. V'lonu boishes hapanim, and we are the ones who are shamefaced, kayom hazel, as of today, as you see today, as we see today. Leish Yehuda, both the people of Yehuda, Uliyoshve, Yerushalayim, and those who live in Jerusalem, L'chol Yisrael, Hakroivim, whether they're close, Harachokim, whether they're far, B'chol Haratzis, in all the lands, Asher Hidachtam Sham, that they've been cast away to. B'ma'alam, because of their treachery, Asher Ma'aluvach, that they were treacherous to you. Hashem, God, Lanu Boishes Apanim, we are the one who are ashamed. Lemlachenu, our kings, L'sarenu, our princes, La'aviseinu, our fathers, Asher Chatanu Lach, that sin to you. L'Hashem Elokeinu, to Hashem our God, Horachamim, is the mercy, v'haslichos, and the forgiving, Kimaradnu by, because we rebelled against Him. Now, what is it?
Here he speaks Mishnah Kodesh, and the whole Sefer was in
that was last week. That was last week.
So one of the explanations we gave is that that as soon as Bavel has its downfall, we no longer use the Aramaic to show the downfall of Bavel. But Rabbi, see, look at this pasuk; it's very mysterious. To God is mercy because we rebelled against Him. What is that supposed to mean? God is merciful because we rebelled against Him? No. How do we know God is merciful? Because we rebel against Him and we're still around. So from there we know, L'Hashem Elokeinu harachamim v'haslichos. V'lo shamanu b'kol Hashem Elokeinu. We did not listen to the voice of Hashem our God. L'leches b'toyroisav, to walk in His toyros. Does ki mean afapi?
Can you make it a little bit lower so I call it here?
So maybe when.
He's got the machine, I think.
He has a machine.
Yeah. Zoe, do you have the machine, Zoe?
Okay, let's just finish up here.
No,
V'lo shamanu b'kol Hashem Elokeinu.
it's on top.
We did not listen to the voice of Hashem our God, L'leches b'sayroisav, to walk in His Tairos, Asher nasan lefanenu, that He placed before us, b'yad avodav hanaviyim, through His servants, the prophets. Now, what does it mean, Tairoisav? We only have one Torah. Torah achas u'mishpar echad yiyalachem. Torah shebachsav. Torah shebaper.
It's Torah shebaper.
Yeah.
You didn't accept.
V'chol Yisrael avros Tarasecha. All of Israel violated your Torah. V'sur, and they deviated Levilti Shema b'kailecha, not to listen to your voice. V'atitach aleinu, and therefore was poured out against us. Ha'alav ha'shvua, the curse and the oath, asher ksuva b'saras Moshe, that are written in the Torah of Moshe Eved Elokim, the servant of God, ki chatanulai, for we sinned against him. Vayakam estavaroi, and he fulfilled his word, asher dibar aleinu, that he spoke upon us. V'al sheftenu, and our judges, asher shefatunu, that judged us. Lahavi aleinu, God brought upon us ra gedola, great evil. Asher lo nesasa tachas kol hashamayim ka asher nesasa b'Yerushalayim. Never was there a catastrophe and a disaster the way the likes of what happened to Yerushalayim. In other words, in all human tragedy, nothing could compare to the Churban Rishon of Yerushalayim. And this is all predicted. This is not a surprise, Daniel says. Kasher Kasuv B'Sairas Moshe. As it's written in the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu, is Kol Hara Hazos. All of this evil Ba Eleinu has come upon us. V'loi Chilinu Es Pnei Hashem Lekeinu. And we never davened and beseeched, like Vayichal Moshe, we never beseeched the countenance of God, Lashav Me'avinenu, to do tshuva, Ulahaska B'amitecha, and to comprehend your truth. Avaisai, have a wonderful day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.